My name is Vespan Falamarzian, and for the signature video assignment, my chosen sexual variation is infidelity, and the theory that I chose is social exchange theory, specifically rational choice theory. According to the American Psychological Association, social exchange theory is a theory envisioning social interactions as an exchange in which the participant seeks to maximize their benefits, which is the rewards they receive minus the costs they incur, within the limits of what is regarded as fair or just. Rational choice theory, however, is an extension of social exchange theory, with the former being that rational choice theory states that individuals use rational calculations to make choices and achieve outcomes that are aligned with their own personal objectives. These results are also associated with maximizing an individual's self-interest, according to Investopedia. Now, how does the theory apply to sexual variation in general? Well, rational choice theory applies to infidelity because, according to Zampian, Zampian declared that central to infidelity is the fact that one partner promises fidelity to another and later on breaks that promise. Breaking that promise is in and of itself a decision that is a decision, and this decision entails calculating the risks and rewards of your decisions. Historical view of the sexual variation. So the chosen time period is from 1550 to 1620 in Debrecen, Hungary. According to Magyar, Magyar states that the town of Debrecen was the epicenter of a religious revival movement known as the Hungarian Reformation. One of the entailments of the Hungarian Reformation were multiple synodical meetings that hoped to resolve civil and criminal matters such as infidelity and divorce, according to a strict interpretation of the Bible. Magyar retells Bishop Milianus was one of the most prominent leaders of the Hungarian Reformations. In one of his writings, Milianus declared that adultery tears the covenant of marriage between husband, wife, and God to shred. Therefore, it is lawful for a lord or prince to kill every adulterer. Fornicators should be killed indeed, so do not punish them with a rod or fine. However, Magyar found that of the 293 infidelity cases in Debrecen, only 77 were punished for infidelity. This is not an endorsement of infidelity, but rather the townsfolk's sense of leniency as taught by the central text of their faith, in this context being the Bible, that the offended spouse had the right to pardon or bring forth charges against the spouse who committed the offensive acts, concludes Magyar. And another religion's point of view of the sexual variation within the same time frame would be Islam. According to Kirnisu, infidelity is considered a crime called jarima in Islam and is strictly prohibited and severely punished because it involves the honor of a person. In fact, the Quran condemns infidelity as an obscenity and odious. Contemporary U.S. view of the sexual variation. The Survey Institute of American Life in its 2022 report discovered that acceptance of infidelity varied partly on gender, wherein 70% of women believe that when a man commits infidelity, it is morally wrong, compared to 56% of women who believe that when a woman commits infidelity, it is morally wrong. 61% of male respondents believe when a married man commits infidelity, it is wrong, compared to 53% who believe when a married woman commits infidelity, it is wrong. With respect to educational attainment, women with postgraduate degrees are more tolerant of women committing adultery at 45%, compared to 61% of women with only a high school degree believe infidelity is wrong. These findings deduced that lack of acceptance of infidelity is partly driven by gender double standards with respect to overall American attitudes to infidelity. With respect to overall American attitudes to infidelity, Berger discovered trends as far back as 1973 showing 70% disapproval of infidelity. This upward trend continued until 2008, where disapproval reached a peak of 84% and disapproval of infidelity declined towards 79%. In 2010, and ultimately down to 69% in 2022. Berger believes this shift is due to a belief in sexual ethics in non-religious cohorts, with 7 out of 10 believing infidelity was wrong, compared to the 54% in 2022. However, it is not due to the free love movement of the 1970s that led to the drop in infidelity rejection between 2010 and 2022, but rather the non-religious cohort had mixed feelings about infidelity. 12 to 17% believed that infidelity was wrong most of the time. 6 to 11% believed it was wrong some of the time. Now, some of the contemporary laws pertaining to the sexual variations in the US are, so according to Fung, as of 2024, there are 16 states in which infidelity is recognized as a formal legal crime punishable by a fine or imprisonment. In 3 out of those 16 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Oklahoma, infidelity is recognized as a felony. According to the Infidelity Recovery Institute, Michigan has the most severe consequences for adultery, with a possible life sentence for adulterers. However, this is seldom used. Meanwhile, the same Infidelity Recovery Institute asserts that the state of Wisconsin fines adulterers up to $10,000 or 3 years in jail, and Oklahoma fines adulterers up to $500 and 5 years in jail. North Carolina is one of the few states where innocent spouse can bring civil action against the third party who ruined the marriage. Under the state's criminal conversation and alienation of affection statutes, there are 3 elements for criminal conversation that must be met. The innocent spouse is married to the cheating spouse during the course of the affair. Sexual intercourse between the adulterous partner and the third party occurred during the affair, and the illicit act took place within a 3-year time period. Elements of alienation of affection are: the spouses had a loving marriage, love and affection was destroyed, innocent spouse has been damaged in some way, and the third party behaved maliciously, caused alienation leading to the end of the marriage. With respect to technology's influence on the acceptance level of infidelity, Dimitri reported that infidelity is still held in low regard as of 2022. 83% of US adults consider sending messages to another person as cheating. Findings by Minali concluded that technology has a role in facilitating infidelity, but not making it more socially acceptable. Specifically, Minali says, rather, the environment of a mobile dating app can mimic our immediate environment and thus offer new platforms to seek alternative partners. Now, how the chosen theory explains the lack of acceptance of infidelity in the contemporary view. Rational choice theory holds that humans use rational calculations when making decisions, drawing from Dimitrios' previous reportings, when 93% of U.S. adult respondents believe that sex with someone is cheating, 64% believe that holding hands with another person is cheating, and 73% believe having an emotional connection to another person is cheating. These respondents are likely factoring in what Zampian discusses, and that would be the negative consequences of cheating, such as divorce, contracting an STI, negative stigma, and shame. When answering the survey, as individuals, the respondents have calculated that the costs of infidelity outweigh any perceived benefits, hence their decision not to undertake the decision to cheat. Conclusions. How does the theory hold up comparatively in explaining the sexual variation in both the historic and contemporary view? Rational choice theory holds in explaining the lack of accepting infidelity in both the historic view and the contemporary view. However, the reasons for the lack of acceptance vary greatly. In the historic view, religious officials had a strong grip on the legislature, and therefore infidelity could be punished more severely than in a secular context. Lastly, the findings of Munch that increased piety reduces the likelihood of infidelity due to increased foreknowledge of the punishment for adulterers serves as a cost that free agents can use in their decision to commit infidelity. In the contemporary view, costs such as STI contraction, stigma, shame, and divorce are considered in a free agent's decision to commit adultery. And with respect to the sexual variations with respect to infidelity's acceptance level in the next 5 to 100 years, In the next 5 years, I predict that the rate of accepting infidelity will remain unchanged, and that Burgess' reported 69% total condemnation of infidelity will remain steady or maintain in minor fluctuations year to year. With respect to the next 100 years, I believe that the total lack of acceptance of infidelity will dip down to 55%. However, categories such as infidelity is wrong most of the time and infidelity is wrong some of the time will make up a larger portion of the respondents' answer, especially in the latter group. Thank you for your time.